Radio check, loud and clear, loud and clear. You guys should be able to hear me. Thank you everyone for tuning in and welcome along to the coverage here in Mexico City. We are at round number 20 of the Formula One calendar, and what an eventful Friday we had yesterday with 9 rookies taking part in free practice 1, and then Max Verstappen topping the times in FP2 with Charles Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli very close behind him. It was nice and interesting, and currently up on the screen I've got a few statistics up there. You can see the qualifying simulation pace looks to be the best for... Oh, I've just accidentally changed the colour of my light. Let me put that back. There we go. Alright, what was I saying? The qualifying pace. You can see here that Max Verstappen looks to be the quickest in the qualifying simulation pace. McLaren only half a tenth behind. However, when we do change that from qualifying to the race simulation, it looks like McLaren are the quicker team, with Red Bull a little bit more improvement left to go. And to be honest with you guys, it did look that way on the onboards as well. Sometimes this data isn't isn't comparable with what the drivers are saying, what the engineers are saying, but Max Verstappen was very much complaining about the grip levels on the car yesterday. And it was very strange. He wasn't even complaining about the balance of the car. You know, typically it's like, oh, the car's not turning, or the car's turning too much and the rear's too slidey. But there was none of that. It was just an overall total lack of grip from Max Verstappen's perspective. And he was talking about the tyres getting too hot. So we know that is a concern, but you do have to remember here in FP2, the track temperatures were unusually low for Mexico City. We had track temperatures down at 35 degrees Celsius, when compared to FP1, we had track temperatures up at 47 degrees Celsius. So a 12-degree shift in track temperature, and it brought track temperatures down. Still, Max Verstappen didn't have the best possible conditions, and still he had too much overheating, which will be very, very interesting to see if he can actually deal with that. If you can deal with that, yeah. Okay. It is FP3, folks. As you can see, it says right below me, FP3 starts. Oh, I don't know why I've got it saying FP2 starts. Let me change that. Apologies. On top of me, it says FP2 instead of quali. Quali starts in, there we go, 3 hours and 57 minutes. Brilliant. So, yes, what we'll be expecting from FP3, of course, track conditions will be still different to what we're expecting in quali, but we do expect the lap times to drop a little further with some more track evolution on the circuit. A few other things to be expecting is that the teams will be looking to do they'll be looking to see if their setup changes overnight have worked. So all of these stats that you see to the left of me here, they are the stats before all of the setup changes have happened overnight, and the teams will be looking to, make their cars quicker, of course. So we did see, I think 2 races ago, maybe 1 race ago, these stats were totally inaccurate because the teams made setup changes and brought the cars in totally different directions. I think it was Ferrari made their car quicker over the course of the setup changes, and McLaren made their car slower, and that's why we had that battle between Leclerc and Norris at the previous race. And we'll be getting something probably similar, with Red Bull hoping to improve their race pace and McLaren hoping to improve their qualifying pace as we head towards qualifying later today. Bottom left still says practice 2. That is correct. That's the practice 2 data is just up on the screen. This is normally how we start out all of the sessions on this channel. We always have the previous sessions data up on the screen, so we can have a bit of a reference point before we get underway to the session. All right. So, Red Bull has 4 upgrades. What do you think of it? Well, I think that 4 upgrades is a bit of an exaggeration. So, just to sort of show you guys what they were talking about when they were talking about the upgrade packages for Red Bull, I shall get them up for you here. So, this was technically one of the upgrade packages for the Red Bull team. It wasn't really an upgrade package, it's much more sort of a performance package. Not performance, sorry, reliability package. They're just trying to make sure that their car doesn't overheat too much. So this new engine cover that you can see on the left hand side of me, that is their upgrade to the engine cover. The same thing has happened at the brake ducts. They've got special extra big brake ducts here in Mexico to make sure that their brakes don't overheat. So those are two of the 4 upgrades that Red Bull have brought, and then the other 2 are sort of performance upgrades. They did bring some upgrades to the floor edges and the underside of the floor as well, and that's why they had FlowViz paint on their car during FP2 yesterday, looking to see if the upgraded floor was working as expected, if the air is moving in the direction that the engineers want it to move at. And yeah, those were 2 of the upgrade packages, but 2 very much reliability-oriented upgrades, shall we say. They weren't really upgrades, they were changes to the car. And the same thing, all of the other teams as well, they've brought changes. Ferrari with this super big cooling ducts to try and prevent as much lifting and coasting as possible. McLaren with much smaller cooling ducts. But it is quite interesting here. So if you look at the Ferrari car, you can see that there are these 4 fins that come out, 4 gaps for air to come out. And then there's this big hole on the top of the side pod, so sort of the upper side of the engine cover. That's where this hole is. If you look at the McLaren car, so that McLaren is the top left in that image, McLaren has got their big gaping hole on the bottom of the engine cover. And, this is sort of just a design philosophy of the engine. The Ferrari power unit will have maybe some of its venting out towards the top side. The McLaren engine, or the Mercedes engine, shall we say, will have some more of its venting on the lower side of the engine. But that's sort of all of the different things that you have to take into account when designing an engine cover to make sure that you don't get too much overheating. How does F1 compute the theoretical best lap time for the driver? So what they do is they compare their best first sector, their best second sector, best third sector, and they just add them up together. Even though they may not have had the best first, second, third sector combined on the same lap, the theoretical best lap time is calculated by looking at your best sectors in each individual sector and combining them. And if we do look at the lap times, Max Verstappen, his best lap time there at the top of the field, it's a 1:17.4, and that is also the exact lap time of his theoretical best lap time. So Max is on the limit of his theoretical best lap time, and Charles Leclerc still had a tenth to improve. Kimi Antonelli was on the limit. Lando Norris had a 10th to improve. Hamilton was on the limit. Then we had George Russell, who had a 10th to improve. So, we are in FP2. This data, at least up on the screen, that is the FP2 data, so it's not going to be, the drivers aren't pushing all the way to the limit, but you can sort of see and figure out who's making them a little bit of mistakes, who isn't making those mistakes, and who's a little bit more comfortable with the car. If at the end of FP2, the driver's theoretical best lap time is identical with their best lap time, then you can sort of tell that the drivers are at one with the car. They know what the car's going to do, and they're not sort of scrambling around, hooking maybe one good sector up on one lap and then another good sector on another lap, but not being able to put it all together. So good signs there for Max Verstappen. Lando Norris was a 10th off his personal theoretical best, and Oscar Piastri was also a 10th off as well. So both McLaren drivers, a bit more work to do till they're fully confident in the car. Right. Okay, ads. Oh yeah, apologies for that. Let me block the adverts again. F1 Gaming, you decided to do a face reveal. Indeed, I did. We did it in the Singapore GP. So that's when it happened. Right. The track is 2,000 meters high. Why almost every team has new upgrades? What is the downfalls here? Well, that's sort of the difficulty of this racetrack. We are 2,000 meters or 2,200 meters above sea level, and that means that the air is 25% thinner. So, for example, if a car was generating 4 tons of downforce at Monza or at Zandvoort, which is right at sea level, right? Zandvoort specifically is right next to the beach. So Zandvoort's at sea level. If you compare the exact same downforce spec that you have at Zandvoort to Mexico City, you are actually generating 25% less downforce. So it goes from 4 tons of downforce down to 3 tons of downforce, and that affects grip levels drastically. I mean, we know that drivers get affected by little gusts of winds here and there, throwing them off from their flying laps and things like that. A huge 25% difference is enormous in the world of Formula One. So because of that, for the teams to compensate for this lack of air, lack of downforce, they put on their Monaco levels of downforce. So they've put on Monaco rear wings, Monaco front wings, and then the special thing that they have is super big front brake ducts and also engine covers. That's specific to Mexico itself because of the high altitude. Right. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Arvin Lindblad, Red Bull 2025, 2026? Well, Lindblad did well yesterday in FP1. He was one of the only rookies that didn't end up in the bottom 9, or bottom 8, shall we say, of the standings. So he did have a lot of good pace, and yeah, hopefully he can carry on improving. We did see in Formula 2 his racecraft still isn't up to scratch, really. There's still a lot more improvements left to go before he can find his way into Formula 1. But another good driver that Red Bull have developed. And, Red Bull have... Well, their driver treatment and the way that they treat their drivers and the sort of cycle that they just switch them around from the Red Bull team to the Racing Bull team probably isn't the best thing, but you do have to give it to them that they are really good at finding talented drivers so often. We've got Mercedes, they brought George Russell in, they brought Kimi Antonelli in, but in the past couple of years, has anyone else of major significance been on the Mercedes Driver Academy? Not really. Same thing can be said for the Alpine team. Same thing can be said for the Ferrari Driver Academy. They aren't picking up these youngsters when... they aren't picking up the correct youngsters. Maybe they aren't picking up youngsters and promoting them up early enough. But Red Bull seem to have a really good eye for picking on good rookies and bringing them up in towards the world of Formula 1. So let's get rid of, what was I going to move? Oh yeah, this. And let's put up the weather. So just a quick reminder of the weather, folks. It's nice and sunny in Mexico City. Air temperature is supposed to be 1 degree hotter than what it was yesterday. But in reality, it's not going to be too big of a concern for anyone because the sun is out and the track is getting nice and hot as we are 18 minutes away from the start of free practice 3. F1 Gamer, is it a disadvantage if there's no more upgrades? Well, the upgrades is sort of... nobody's really bringing that many upgrades towards the end of the season apart from Red Bull. Red Bull are the only one that have got something really to gain. McLaren hope that they can hang on without an upgrade package. I'm still not so certain that they will be able to do so. It's getting very, very close with Max. And... yeah, all of the other teams have decided to focus on 2026. It makes sense as well for McLaren to focus on 2026, but Red Bull they are compromising quite a few of their resources to focus on 2025 to try and bring maybe 1 more upgrade package, 2 more upgrade package to help Max Verstappen on his way to a 5th world title, and maybe that will compromise them going into 2022. But, if you do remember what happened in 2021, Red Bull were still bringing a lot of upgrade packages towards the end of 2021, trying to beat Lewis Hamilton in the world title, and they did compromise their 2022 a little bit, but at the end of the day in 2022 they still had the edge over Ferrari and managed to hang on. So it looks like Red Bull should be okay, even though they are developing upgrades right till the end of the season. F1 Gamer, are you Indian or Arab? I am from India originally, yeah. F1 Gamer, it's been 1 year since Ferrari won. Indeed, it has. Carlos Sainz was the last driver to win at this racetrack. He also got pole here in 2024 with a 1 minute 15.9, and none of the drivers have got close to that, to be honest. It's a 1:17.4. That was the quickest lap time we saw yesterday from Max Verstappen. Which are the hardest corners on this racetrack? Well, I shall take you through a flying lap. So let me just move this free practice timer here, and I shall get the onboard and put that up on the screen. So we shall start our flying lap going out of the final corner. This is not a difficult corner, but it is very, very important. You do need to get a very nice exit out of here as you go on to the start-finish straight. super duper long straight, and the drivers are reaching 347 kilometers per hour at the top speed with the DRS and the slipstream. If they don't have with just DRS. If they have a slipstream, they'll be going even higher than 347 or 348, but most of the drivers are doing 347 kilometers per hour at the end of the straight before they hit the brakes for turn number 1. You start braking just about 110 meters out from the corner and all over the curbs. That is the motto around here in Mexico. You just take as much curb as you possibly can. And then you go in towards turn number 4. You've got another DRS zone here, and you brake at the 100-meter mark. Same thing. We did see some very interesting and very questionable battling, shall we say, from Max Verstappen and Lando Norris here in Mexico City last year. Max got handed a 20-second time penalty for his dangerous moves or interesting racing maneuvers, shall we say. And we'll see if Max Verstappen repeats any of those antics, but a 20-second penalty was definitely not ideal. But at the end of the day, he still won the championship. So, of course, in that scenario, he was in the lead and things were looking a lot better for him. Whereas right now, he's sort of the underdog. So we'll see if he takes a different strategy going through these corners on the opening lap, and if he's battling with Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. Then you make your way through turns number 6 and 7, and it's a double V corner for that one. So you hit the first apex, drift out wide, hit the second apex, straight line the exit, and then through turns number 7, 8, 9, and 10 and 11. And these corners all just flow on one after another. The drivers aren't even thinking of them as different corners. They're all just thinking of them as one flowing section that they have to get the line absolutely perfect on. And then, of course, don't exceed track limits there on the right hand side, because if you are on the limit of grip, if you got on the power a little bit earlier than I did on that lap, it's so easy to drift wide, exceed track limits there, and then get your qualifying lap deleted. We haven't had too many laps getting deleted during today's session. Sorry, not during yesterday's session. We didn't get too many lap times deleted, but we will probably see 1 or 2 laps get deleted during qualifying. So we'll keep an eye out for that, and I'll keep you guys posted. Then going into turn number 12, this is one of the trickier corners. At this point, your tyres are super duper hot from the hot sequence of corners the sequence of medium speed corners from the previous few. The previous few corners were medium speed corners, and they've really warmed up your tyres, and that was the main problem. There we go. We finally got the data loaded. Yeah, as you can see there. So 7, 8, 9, and 10 really overheat your tyres. Then you go into 12 with pretty hot tyres, also a DRS zone as well, and you've got to make sure that you don't lock your brakes and you don't drift too wide on this exit, because if you mount the curbs on... this exit curb is probably the biggest curb around here in Mexico, and if you get your car up onto that, you're going to be losing lots of lap time because, your wheels just aren't really in contact with the ground. Shift your brake balance a little bit backwards as you go into the stadium section to make sure you don't overshoot the corner like I just did there, and then you've got your final few corners. And just the key thing here on your quali lap is hug the inside line. Typically, on a normal racing lap, you would take the outside line because you don't want to overheat your tyres too much. But on a qualifying lap, hug the inside line right to the wall and come across the line. And that is a lap of the Mexico City circuit. All right. Go. We've got the FP3 data up on the screen. Track temperatures back up to 43 degrees Celsius. Air temperatures at 22.5. Okay. Will it be less exciting if there's no more DRS? Well, next year we will have manual overtake mode, which is of course short for, if you shorten that down, it's MOM, which is interesting to say the least. But manual override mode is the next year's version of DRS. It's going to be a very similar thing where if you're within about a second or so of the driver ahead of you, you'll get a little bit more downforce on your car and maybe a little bit more power as well. So that is what manual override mode is, and we'll be having that next year. I think it'll be very similar to DRS in terms of its racing capability. I can't say that it will be much better. But the FIA hopes it will be better, so we'll see. Their simulations worked pretty well for 2022, and we do remember, if we look back to 22 and maybe at the start of 23, the overtakes and the dirty air was a lot less prevalent, and so we got a lot more overtakes. Dirty air was a lot less prevalent, and this problem of being stuck behind a slower driver was not so much of an issue back in 2022. But then, as the cars develop and as they get faster and more technical and extract the final few percentage points of performance, that's when the dirty air starts to become a very big deciding factor, and that's when we get these sort of problems. So it's good to have big aero changes in the regulations. It keeps the racing fresh, and it also keeps their engineers and designers on their tiptoes. Okay. F1 Gamer, do you think Mercedes will be the best car in 2026 as they have more past experience in electric engines? No, I think a lot of teams will. It's not. Mercedes aren't going to have a big advantage because they've got more experience in electric engines. Ferrari can just hire people that have previously worked on electric engines, and the same thing for Honda, same thing for Alpine, that they will very much just find the people that have got the expertise and then pay them enough money that they'll move to Formula One. And a lot of people do want to work in Formula One. And if you do look at it, in fact, some of the applications to a Formula One job, it is like 200 applications to one. You've got really, really high application ratios in towards Formula One teams. So they will definitely find someone that has got enough experience in electric engines. Okay. F1 Gamer, can you recall why Max got a 20-second penalty while fighting with Norris last year? Well, Norris, what he was doing Max, what he was doing, he was just pushing Norris wide, and then for one certain corner, it was turn number 7, and Max just went for an almighty dive bomb, and there was absolutely no way he was making that corner. Norris, if he didn't take avoiding action, both of them would have DNF'd, probably, but essentially, yes, Max just went for a really, really ridiculous move, and there was no way he was making the corner. Pretty much he would have crashed into Norris if Norris didn't take avoiding action, and yeah, the FIA was like, that is not on. You can use your rule of being first the apex up to a certain limit, but you can't send a dive bomb from 50 meters back or 20 meters back or whatever it is and try and take out your competition. So that's why Max did get a 20-second time penalty back in 2024. All right. Good day, folks. Good day, Cleon Parnov. That outstanding penalty graphic was quite funny, not going to lie. Yeah, it was. I don't think we've ever seen a driver get 20 seconds worth of time penalties in a race, especially that quickly. Max got it over the course of 2 laps. How good do you think the Ford engine is going to be next year? I think it'll be all right. They've got a lot of Honda engineers working on it, and Honda know a thing or two about making engines that work and that are reliable. So I wouldn't be too concerned about the Ford/Red Bull engine reliability. Okay, F1 Gamer. Good day. How was Max's medium tyres after free practice? Max's medium tyres were frankly terrible, to be honest. Let me bring up the statistics. So this is what it was. The race pace simulation was showing that Max was 1.5 tenths back in terms of race pace on the McLarens. And if that translates to an entire race over a race distance, that is 71 laps. And 71 laps times by 1/10, that's about 7 seconds, 8 seconds back is Max Verstappen from both McLarens. So yeah, he was complaining quite significantly yesterday about a lack of grip, that it's like driving on ice is pretty much what he said over the radio. And it wasn't an issue with the front end, it wasn't an issue with the rear end, it was an overall issue with the car, with the tyre temperatures. And they were looking to resolve them. Hopefully they have. And that's what Hannah Schmidt, that's what the test drivers, that's what their race engineers all will have been working on overnight, running the simulations, trying to find something that will still give them enough qualifying pace, enough race pace, but also make sure that the tyres don't wear out over the course of 5, 6, 7 laps. Okay. Do you have a favourite driver? Indeed, I do. I have Seb Vettel is my favourite driver. I think the more and more this question gets asked, the more I'm more convinced to get a Seb Vettel cardboard cutout and just stick that behind me over there. And that would be, I think that'd answer the question. All right. What are your thoughts on the podium celebration in Mexico with the driver and the car being lifted? I think it's quite nice. It's a little bit cringy sometimes, but I think Max, when he had that Mexican hat on, it was quite the funny moment. So, and it definitely can't be less cringe. It definitely can't be more cringe than Las Vegas and Miami. So I'm gonna give it a big old pass. Right, so if we are looking at the timings now, we are at 5 minutes and 50 seconds away from the start of free practice 3. Folks, if you haven't hit the like button, be sure to do so. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that. Hopefully we can make our way towards 2,000 likes and 206k subscribers. We are here in Mexico City, round number 20 of the Formula One calendar. We have got 5 races after this: Mexico, and then we've got Brazil, and then we've got Las Vegas, then Qatar, and then Abu Dhabi. That is the order, and honestly, it is going to be simply lovely right here till the end of the season. How much of an idea does free practice give you for the pace during qualifying and the race? Well, it gives you a vague approximate idea. I think Ferraris were looking pretty good in terms of their quali pace yesterday, and their race pace was also on par. It was a little bit back from the McLarens, but not by that big of a margin. And as you can see there, it was 0.3 of a second, but Ferrari still got some more improvements to do. The drivers weren't 100% happy with the car. So it gives you a vague idea, but you can never be certain until it actually happens on the racetrack, as is always said. I don't know why I just said that. Anyway. Seb's not a current driver. Give the boys and girls your current favourite driver. Well, my current favourite driver, I don't really have one. But if you had to make me pick one, I would either go between Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda. Those are my 2 choices. Do you think Mercedes power unit this year is getting ruined by the hot conditions and their performance is kind of poor? It might be a little bit difficult in terms of Mercedes. They haven't had the best track record around here, but I don't think it is a Mercedes power unit issue. I think it's much more of a Mercedes cooling package issue rather than the power unit itself, because if you do compare, the McLarens are not too bad in hot conditions, the Williams are not too bad, neither are the Aston Martins, but the Mercedes, maybe they have something wrong with their cooling design or something's inherently incorrect, but Mercedes is the one that suffers the most from these cooling problems when it does get hot, and I hope that they have fixed that. They have brought special cooling ducts, as I showed you guys a little bit earlier on. Let me show you guys there. Mercedes is at the bottom left of the 6 images, and they have brought new cooling packages. It looks very, very fancy, very, very beautiful, but after all, it has got to work. It doesn't matter if it looks pretty. It's got to make sure that Mercedes power unit does not exceed 90 degrees Celsius, and that would be ideal. Okay. Even if Max is slower by 1.5 tenths in race pace, if he's on pole, no way McLaren's are overtaking him. Well, the issue is that if Max is on pole position, we have got a super long run in towards turn number 1, and sometimes it is not the best position to be in pole position. Sometimes it's better there to be in second place, sometimes it's better to be in third, where you can tuck into the slipstream of the driver in pole, then overtake them maybe around the outside, maybe down the inside, depending on the scenarios and the situation. So yeah, it may work out that the driver who gets third position in quali will end up in first position at the end of the first sector. Right. This should all let them start the first lap with DRS open. Well, having DRS open on the first lap would result in the entire Formula 1 grid just being in this huge DRS train, which isn't the best really for racing, so that's the reason why they don't do it. Yeah. But the McLarens will DNF each other. Well, honestly, if the McLarens do DNF each other, that would be incredible for the title fight, and it would make it so much closer. It's going to be a little bit tough here for Piastri. Hasn't had as much confidence in the car. He was describing yesterday's session as pretty average, and he hopes to do a little bit better. So We'll see if he can improve. See, he'll of course be poring over all of the data overnight. He'll be looking at where Lando was quicker, what he can do to improve with the strategy situation. And yeah, let me just adjust this webcam. There we go. It's a little bit better of an angle. All right. Do you think Mercedes will do well next year? My predictions for the teams that are going to be best next year are Williams and Aston Martin, but that's not to say Mercedes can't be good. F1 Gamer, do you think that in an ideal world there should be a race where every driver is provided the same car, which will show in reality who is the best driver? Well, it wouldn't really show in reality who's the best driver, unfortunately. As much as we would like to have this one ideal race that we can have, and then we can safely say for certain that, you know, Max is the best, or Hulkenberg's the best, or Lewis is the best, or whatever, that's just not going to happen, because as soon as that race finishes, you're going to have, you know, let's say that Lewis finishes in 5th position in this hypothetical race, then you're going to have all the Lewis fans saying, oh no, the car wasn't set up ideally for Lewis, and it wasn't, the understeer wasn't ideal, or whatever. And then if Verstappen loses, then everyone is going to say, oh, the car wasn't pointy enough for Max, and that's why he wasn't quick. And so there's really no point in sort of talking about these scenarios. It's nice to think about in a hypothetical, imaginary, perfect world, but of course, we do not live in such a world. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Timings are... FP3 is underway, the timer has hit 0, and all the drivers are currently in the pit lane. That is a good start to FP3, shall we say, because, yeah, I don't know why the teams do this, but here we are, we're all sat in the pits, and they'll be getting out shortly. Every free practice session, Ferrari's been fast, but having a poor season. People are still talking about having a winning team. Yeah, Ferrari are very much the winners of free practice on a few occasions, and yeah, they looked good in free practice in Monza, and their pace was nowhere really to be seen. So hopefully that is something that, you know, that is the opposite of what happens this weekend. Hopefully Ferrari are good and they're up there. Carlos Sainz, of course, he did get his that's Ferrari's last win, actually, 1 full season ago with Carlos Sainz, the smooth operator. We'll see if Carlos Sainz can replicate some of his success. It'll be unlikely that he gets pole position in Williams, but if he can pop it up in the top 5, then maybe he's got another podium up for grabs under his Williams driver's seat. We've got the 2 Aston Martins out, Stroll out on mediums, and Fernando Alonso out on hards. Is the GPS not working? Indeed, the GPS is working today. There were some issues in free practice 1, but we are good to go for free practice 3. Looking at Lance Stroll's quali record, he's got 12th position, 17th position, 14th position, 15th and 18th in the previous 5 races. Not been ideal there for Lance Stroll on every single occasion, getting out qualified by Fernando Alonso. His qualifying point is really not his best strength, and he's got some more work to do, really. His sprint race also wasn't fantastic back in Kota. He did get that 5-place grid penalty for crashing into Ocon, and then also, yeah, started right at the back of the pack. It wasn't amazing really from Stroll. Hopefully he can improve a little bit more going into 2026 when he's got a car designed by Adrian Newey, which will be pretty nice. And I would love to see what Fernando Alonso can do in an Adrian Newey designed Aston Martin powered by a Honda engine. Okay. What do you think about the Isaac situation? I think Isaac's been doing a pretty good job, but yes, it's always a very tough situation as a Red Bull rookie when there are talks of getting promoted up to the major Red Bull team, because, well, if you look at the history of the major Red Bull team, how well has it gone for Alex Albon? How well has it gone for Pierre Gasly? How well has it gone for Liam Lawson? It's just really not gone that well. Neither has it for Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda had quite a few years in Formula 1, in fact, and still when he made the promotion up to Red Bull, it was not smooth sailing. So I feel that if Red Bull want to sort of rectify the past mistakes that they have made, they should keep Hadjar in the Racing Bulls team for a few more years and then think about swapping him out with Yuki Tsunoda. But we shall see what happens next year. Red Bull are still yet to decide their 2026 driver lineup. Of course, there's Max Verstappen, but their number 2 driver is yet to be seen. Stroll and Alonso coming out on tyres. They're just scrubbing their tyres. It's typical Aston Martin strategy. Aston Martin do this quite often, actually. They have a idea, or they think at least, that what happens when when you get a fresh set of Pirelli tyres, what happens is you've got this outer sort of shiny layer on these Pirelli tyres, and what results in that is, at least Aston Martin think that your tyre warm-up isn't as optimal if you have this layer of sort of shiny stuff on the outside of your tyre. And essentially what they do is they send Stroll and Alonso out to do one lap on these tyres to get rid of that shiny surface. They come back into the pits and then they'll use those tyres during the race. None of the other teams seem to have an issue with it, but for whatever reason, Aston Martin does think that it will help their tyre wear, and they've been doing it ever since we've had these new tyres from Pirelli. So interesting. I mean, maybe some of the teams will have tested it once or twice, but they never found anything significant, and Aston Martin seemed to just keep on carrying on doing it. Okay. F1 game with the timing window as a column hidden. The column, the speed trap column that is just there, you can see 302 kilometers per hour for Fernando Alonso. That's going to move itself off the racetrack, move itself off the screen once you get the lap times coming in. So once it says best lap and last lap, those are actually written up on the leaderboard. Then they will, then that'll sort of shift to the right a little bit. All right, we've got Verstappen out onto the circuit. We've also got Hamilton out onto the circuit, and we've also got a message in the chat saying the GOAT is out on track. Who is that referring to? But Max Verstappen out on a set of medium tyres, and so is Lewis Hamilton. Okay. What are my qualifying predictions? I'm going to go with my same predictions that I said for the race, or same predictions that I said yesterday. I said Max Verstappen on pole, George Russell P2, and one of the McLarens in P3. And the reason for putting George Russell in P2 is because Antonelli was looking pretty quick yesterday, and the Mercedes is pretty good at attacking curbs. And when I did my flying lap here with the onboard just a few minutes ago, the key thing around here in Mexico is attacking these curbs, driving all over them, making sure that your car is still stable, has got grip over the curbs. And the Mercedes, that is where they excel. They did it in Canada, they also did it in Singapore, and now they'll be looking to replicate some sort of that success here in Mexico. Max Verstappen's out on a set of medium tyres. He's looking good here in the first sector. And the key thing here from Max is yesterday the medium tyres were pretty terrible for him. He didn't have that much grip, and his lap times were reflecting that. And he was complaining also over the radio. Now the team will have made some setup changes overnight. They will have had a test driver driving in the sim all night. They will have had their race engineers run some more simulations to see what will work for the race. So Max Verstappen now is out on a set of medium tyres. He's got a bit of Flovis paint on his red wing, on his rear wing, all over the Oracle logo. And they'll be looking to see if the flow is doing exactly what they expect it to. But Max is carrying on with his laps here, and we'll see if his tyre temperature situation has improved and his grip levels have improved. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. By the way, we got 7,000 people tuned in. That is fantastic. Folks, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Goes a very, very long way to helping out the YouTube channel. So, would very much be appreciated. We've got still more than half of the grid yet to come out onto the circuit. Hamilton is out now on a flying lap as well. He goes quickest through the speed traps, 341k per hour. Still, engine mode not turned up there from the Mercedes team. They have got some more... Oh, sorry, not from the Mercedes team, from the Ferrari team. And they're still preserving their engine for... Yeah, they're still preserving their engine for the race. Lewis K, can I restream on Twitch for 0 viewers? I prefer it if you don't take my content and just stick it up onto Twitch. I do have a Twitch channel. However, I was actually thinking about that just today. I was thinking about streaming to Twitch and to TikTok. And... I will be looking into getting that done probably for the start of next season. But yeah, on Twitch, the problem is that you just don't get that much growth. I was streaming on Twitch for quite a few races and I never really went higher than 100 people watching. So YouTube's the platform for me right now. But thank you for the donation. Did Hamilton just bail on his flying lap? Indeed he did. He was on a flying lap, was looking good, but he locked up going in towards, sorry, not locked up, missed his braking point going up in towards turn number 4 and bailed on his flying lap. So that was his problem there, but he's going to start at it again by the looks of it. Yes, he's on a flying lap now, and we'll see if he can improve. Surfshark plug. Oh yeah, folks, if you are interested in watching Formula One via Surfshark VPN, it's only $2 a month rather than, you know, the 20 or so that you... Wait, did Hamilton just lock up again and go straight on? Or is that someone else? Or am I getting the wrong replay? No, I think Hamilton backed out of his lap again. Another mistake there for Lewis going in towards turn number 1. Not great to say the least. Okay, so... What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Surfshark VPN. If you guys do want to watch the Formula 1 coverage for only $2 a month, what you can do is get Surfshark VPN. There's a link in the description. You get the Austrian VPN server, and then you go into Google, search Service TV F1, and then you can watch the Formula 1 coverage. Lewis Hamilton did lock up his front right tyre as he went in towards turn number 1. Maybe that was an issue with his brake temperature, maybe that was an issue with his tyre temperature, but there was some sort of problem there as Hamilton was trail braking in towards the apex of the first corner. And that was his second attempt, actually. Locked up, had an issue in towards turn number 4 in his first flying lap, second flying lap issue at turn number 1. Not looking great for the British driver. What do you think Hamilton can do? Folks, I appreciate if you don't spam, but I think Hamilton would probably get up there in the top 5, top 6. It's going to be a tough one, to say the least, for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, with so much stiff competition as well from the Mercedes team, from the Red Bulls, from the McLarens. He's going to need his absolute best if he is going to get up there in the top 5. All right. Folks, anyone wondering when qualifying is starting, there is a timer above me on the screen. It is 3 hours and 20 minutes. That is when qualifying is getting underway. We got Pierre Gasly purple in the first sector, looking good there from the French driver. Bortoletto currently top of the times, a 1 minute 18.7 from him. Nice job there from Bortoletto in that Ferrari-powered Sauber. Then we've got Hülkenberg, who's 1.1 seconds back, actually. Big surprise there. The other thing that we will be seeing during today's qualifying session is drivers setting up tows for each other. I don't know if Ferrari are going to do this, or if... I know, actually, Red Bull will do this if Tsunoda, which is a pretty big if Tsunoda makes it through into Q3, then I fully guarantee that they will send Tsunoda out to give Max Verstappen a tow. Like, it would make... I know that Lauren Mickey's has sort of got a much more equal approach to this driver management situation, but when you're fighting for a 5th world title and you're 40 points back with 5 races left to go, you have to make sacrifices, and I think Lauren Mickey's will, and he'll instruct his race engineers to line up Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen in such a way that Verstappen will get the biggest possible tow down in towards turn number 1. And Hamilton was momentarily up there, top of the times, but Verstappen quickly took that away. And Leclerc goes 1 millisecond quicker than Lewis Hamilton. The Ferrari drivers are so close this weekend. This is actually pretty good, but genuinely a 1 millisecond gap between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton on their previous flying laps. Okay, what causes a lockup? So essentially how it is you've got on your tyre, you've got a certain amount of grip. So let's say you've got 100 points of grip on your tyre. When you're going into a braking zone, as when you jam on the brakes right at the start, you're using 100% of that grip to slow the car down. And then as you get in towards the corner, you have to start turning the wheel as well, which also uses up a little bit of grip. So the drivers have this balancing act where they are full on the brakes, and then as soon as they start turning the steering wheel, they have to come off the brakes a little bit to allow, so the brakes will use maybe 70% of the grip, and the turning will use 30%, and then as you get closer and closer to the corner, you shift totally off the brake pedal, so 0% of your front wheel grips is going towards using it's going towards slowing down the car, and all of it's going towards turning the car. But if the drivers mismanage that, and let's say they're trying to use 110% of the grip that the tyre has available, then you get a lock-up, and the wheel just stops rotating, and you go straight on. So that is essentially what a lock-up is. You're demanding too much from the tyre, and it's not got that available level of grip. Okay. Why so many drivers in the pit lane? The track isn't all that clean, to be honest with you guys. There's still a little bit more evolution left to go, and it's not the cleanest circuit that we've seen in a while. So because of that, we've got a lot of drivers still waiting in the pit lane, waiting for the track to be cleaned up by their fellow competitors, and then they will go out onto the circuit themselves. Sainz was on softs, yes, Sainz did do a very good lap, and he goes 23 milliseconds quicker than Max, but you do have to take into account that Carlos Sainz was on a set of soft tyres. Okay. Did I read Ferrari asking for lift and coast again? Well, if the drivers are on slow laps, lifting and coast does make sense. So the reason why Ferrari asked for lift and coast is essentially during slow laps, the reason why all of the teams do lifting and coast, not just Ferrari, is that these Formula 1 cars are designed to be driven around at 100, 200 miles per hour, kilometers per hour, super duper high speeds. When you're on a slow lap, you're going at maybe 60 Ks, 70 Ks, and for the whole of the lap, you're doing 60, 70 Ks. At no point are you really speeding up. So all of the cooling ducts, they're all designed with high speeds in mind. And that means that during the slow laps, there's not enough air actually passing through the engine to cool it down properly. And for that reason, the teams ask the drivers to go absolutely zero on the power during their slow laps to ensure that there is enough air passing through the engine and there's not enough temperature building up to make sure that they don't have any sort of reliability issues. From Ferrari's specific lift and coast issues, that is much more oriented towards the brake problems that they had in Singapore, and then also the engine issues that they've been having at a few other races. They just haven't been able to maximize that Ferrari power unit, and the reason for that is, when you are doing aerodynamics on a Formula 1 car, you've got to there's a balancing act to be had. You can't allocate 100% of the air heading towards the car to use for downforce, because then you'll have 0% of the air going to cool down the engine, to cool down the brakes. So you have to make this balance. So let's say Ferrari are using 90% of the air for downforce, 2% of the air for cooling the brake ducts, and then the remaining 8% to cool the engine. That may not be the correct percentage to use. Maybe you needed 10% of the air to cool down the engine, or 12%, and that is essentially the problem that they're having. At the start of the season, they went with an upgrade package that would utilize a certain amount of air to cool the engine, to cool all of the internal devices, and that is simply incorrect. And because of that, they're suffering from these lifting and coast issues, where they're telling their drivers to come off the power to make sure that their engine doesn't overheat. Okay. Can you explain how Red Bull's giant air duct is going to help or hinder? Well, it's just going to help them in terms of not overheating, really. You've got to make sure that you actually make it to the end of the race. And to make sure that happens, you need to make sure your engine doesn't get too hot. And because of that, you do need some pretty big air ducts. So that's the main role, really, of the ducts that they've got on their car. Verstappen purple through the middle sector. The middle sector is very much the technical sector of the flying lap. So if the drivers are good in the middle sector, that is a fantastic sign, and that means that whatever grip issues that Max was having yesterday on his medium tyres seem to have gone away, because albeit he has a yellow first sector and a yellow final sector, but the middle sector is where you need all of the grip, and Max Verstappen was purple through there. So it's a sign in the right direction. Still, we don't know for certain if all of the issues are resolved, but it's a good step. Hamilton's also looking pretty quick until, of course, he bailed on his lap going in towards turn number 4, had another lockup. Well, not a lockup, actually. He just avoided the going into the corner because he outbraked himself. So Hamilton still suffering from more braking issues down at Ferrari. Fernando Alonso puts himself up into 4th position. Liam Lawson was there momentarily ago, but a nice job there from Lawson. Hadjar does go a few milliseconds quicker than his teammates up into 5th, but the Racing Bulls 5th and 6th position looking solid. You need to add a Hamilton off-track counter. Yeah, it's not been great for Hamilton. I don't know how many times he's gone on flying laps, but nearly every time he's gone on a flying lap. Yeah, nearly every time he's gone on a flying lap, he's gone off the circuit. Okay. Why hasn't Merck sent out any of their drivers? They're just waiting for better conditions, really. That's all it is. All right, I'm going to have some water. Give me a sec. All right. Which site is it today? It's Service VPN, folks. Service VPN is the way to watch the Formula One this weekend. Oh, sorry, Service VPN? Service TV. It's Surfshark VPN. Service TV is what you use to watch the Formula One this weekend, yeah. Okay, let's have a look at these theoretical best lap times here, folks. Just as a little bit of an insight, really, Piastri and Norris aren't really up there. They are down in 15th and 16th, actually. A 139. Oh, Norris, actually, I spoke slightly too soon. Norris goes up into third position, a 118.065. He's a few milliseconds off Max Verstappen, and that is good to see. The question is now, can Piastri get close to his teammate? He is 3/10 back in the first sector. He is 2/10 back in the middle sector, and Lando Norris is in fact purple in the final sector. So Piastri still not looking as good. You know, it could work out in the final sector. He's 7/10 down overall, though. If he can hold it together in the final sector, and as he comes across the line, it's 12th position. Oh my goodness me. That gap is 9/10 of a second. 9/10. Wow. Yeah. Service TV, is that free? If you have Surfshark VPN and you connect to an Austrian VPN server, then it is free. If you aren't connected to a VPN server, then it's not going to work. Oh, I don't know why the subscriber counter has just disappeared. Let me pop that back up on the screen. But folks, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, be sure to do so. It goes a long way to helping out the channel. And we've got nearly 10,000 people watching free practice. That is fantastic, folks. We will be having qualifying starting in approximately 3 hours time, 3 hours and 10 minutes for wherever you are around the world. So that's when Q3 will be that's when Q1 will be underway. Hadjar over the radio complaining about the McLarens in the middle of the track. And as I said yesterday, Mexico City Circuit is one of the shorter tracks on the calendar. We'll have 71 laps of racing here tomorrow, but that means we'll be around about 4.5 kilometers, 4.4 kilometers is the total track length. So the drivers don't have that much space in between them, and they do have to be careful in terms of the traffic situation. And yet again, we have got this big old bunch in the stadium section, as we have seen time and time again. Is this sandbagging by Piastri? I don't think so. Does Service TV work if you watch on the Netherlands server? Unfortunately not. Service TV is an Austrian-only thing. I don't have a link for it, folks, but if you just go onto Google, it'll come up. We've got around like 600 people have used it, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find. Third shortest track. Thanks for the information there, Axios Ross. Axios Row. I think I said that correctly. And if Gamer, you look handsome, buddy. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much. We got quite the nice reception, actually, with the face reveal. Lots of people saying nice things, which was good to hear. I was a little bit worried, of course, as anyone would be when you're sort of revealing your face to 50,000 people. But yeah, it was nice. Everyone's been quite nice, so is appreciated. It is Service TV as spelt there, just at the bottom of the screen. SERVUS. All right. Alex Albon up into 11th position. Quite a big gap between himself and his teammate. That is 7/10 of a second. Carlos Sainz, of course, has got a good track record around here. He did win here last year in that Scuderia Ferrari. And yeah, Alex Albon has not won here. Okay. So Lawson purple, the GOAT? Well, he is purple in the middle sector, and the middle sector, of course, is the downforce sector. And I think Liam Lawson has taken a bit of a compromise in terms of the downforce. Going through the speed traps, he went 339 kilometers per hour on that flying lap. So he did compromise a little bit of top-end speed for the grip in the middle sector, and that's what's got him a purple middle sector. So we'll see if that works out for him during qualifying, but it will be a tough battle to have in the race. If you've got less top speed than your rival, you normally gain 20 kilometers per hour. In the exact same car, you gain 20 kilometers per hour in terms of top speed if you have DRS open. But let's say if your car is already 6 or 7 kilometers per hour slower than the car that you're the car that you're defending against, then they'll have a 25, 27 kilometer per hour difference as they head towards the start-finish straight with the DRS zone. And at that point, you're just a sitting duck. So it's a compromise that Liam Lawson's got to think about pretty hard before he signs off on that decision. Lando Norris, third fastest in the first sector as he starts his now, I think, third flying lap on these medium tyres. Oscar Piastri is also starting his third flying lap on these medium tyres, and it is a 27.8 from him in the first sector, so that's about a tenth and a half off, so he's improved a little bit compared to the previous lap, and he is also quicker. Well, he's closer to Lando Norris as well compared to the previous lap, which is a good sign from Oscar Piastri. But if you do look at the slow speed corners, that is where Lando Norris is gaining his time. The 7/10 difference between the two drivers is all coming from the slow speed corners, and we'll see if Norris can keep that advantage or whether Piastri is going to gain some more time. Norris does come across the line, actually, and just gets ahead of Carlos Sainz by 13 milliseconds. He does this on a set of medium tyres, and they are quite the old medium tyres as well. So good on Lando Norris for that flying lap. Oscar Piastri does improve, halves the gap from his teammate from 9/10 of a second to 4.5 of a second. So, good step in the right direction, but still a lot more lap time to be found for the Australian driver. Is the last GP on ORF, and why change to Service TV? The way that it works in Austria is one weekend it'll be Service TV, the next weekend ORF, the next weekend Service TV. It just keeps swapping. The face reveal is simply lovely, but I'm surprised that you can't fix the zoom so it stops randomly zooming in, though I do appreciate the chuckle. No, I can turn it off, but I just find it quite funny sometimes, so I've got it turned on again. Yeah. Who do you think will get pole? I still think it'll be Max. That is my prediction based off yesterday. But I'd be happy to be surprised if it's Norris, if it's Sainz, if it's Leclerc. I would love to see someone else get pole position as well. All I want is a tight championship battle at the end of the season. 3 drivers, 1 race at Abu Dhabi to decide it all. That is what I want to see. All right. So, is Lando Norris starting another flying lap? By the looks of it, he might be. He makes his way down the start-finish straight, and looks like he is going full send in towards turn number 1, which is a good sign. Oh, no, he's not. He's going 318 kilometers per hour, so that is nowhere near the top speed that he hit of 346 before, so he's clearly not activated his DRS when he was going down the straight on that occasion. So Norris might start doing his long runs now. Max Verstappen did a very similar thing where he would do 2 flying laps on the medium tyres, and then he'll start doing his long runs to see what the tyre wear situation is like. Norris may be doing the same thing. Piastri, though, might have another attempt at a flying lap if he wants to. He can tell the team that, and they can figure something out. Okay. I want Norris getting pole and Verstappen overtaking him at the first corner. Well, it's not always ideal to have pole position here in Mexico City because there is such a long straight at the opening lap. So you start pole position just around about here, but then you've got this super duper long straight where you can get slipstreamed past in towards turn number 1. I've said it multiple times before. It's one of the longest runs in towards turn number 1 on the Formula 1 calendar, and the drivers have got to be careful. They've got to be wary of getting slipstreamed in towards turn 1. So sometimes it's actually better to be starting in third place. Start in third place, tuck into the toe of the driver ahead of you who's on pole position, slipstream past them in towards turn number 1, say bye-bye, and then win the race. Yeah. Realistic quali time. Oh, Russell over the radio saying, just not getting this medium tyre working, just sliding all over the place. Interesting. So Russell now complaining about the medium tyres. Max was complaining about them yesterday. Russell now is complaining about them. So we'll see if this is a consistent issue all weekend long. Maybe the drivers will opt for the hard tyres for the race tomorrow if the mediums aren't working as expected. A realistic pole time will be looking around about the 1 minute 15.9. That's what we got last year, so I suspect we'll be looking at lap times very, very similar to that. The track record, of course, is from Max Verstappen. It does say MV33, and I am aware Max is number 1 right now, but in 2019 he was the number 33 car, and he set a 1 minute 14.7. Okay. Negative, bro, no driver tries to get third on the grid. Oh no, for sure, no driver will be trying to get third. I'm just saying that the driver in third may be in an advantageous position. But after all, you can have the driver in first position just block you off. You know, if you try to go to the left, the driver in first can block you off, and then the doors get shut on you. You have to slam on the brakes to make sure you don't go into the back of them, and then you lose all your momentum and you could get overtaken. So it's not always as clear-cut as saying third place is always the best place to start, but it does give you an advantage. And, you know, we've seen that advantage play out and be very beneficial in the past. I loved Max versus Seb in 2016. Yeah, that was quite the exciting battle. We had quite the interesting set of team radios as well from Seb Vettel about Max Verstappen backing him up into Daniel Ricciardo. But maybe we'll get something similar happening with Lando Norris backing Max Verstappen up into Oscar Piastri. Actually, that's not going to happen. They're not doing that this year. The McLarens are very much fighting on their own, and the problem is now for McLaren is, let's sort of imagine, I don't know what the exact odds are for any of these who's winning the world. Oh, Russell, clearly his medium tyres are working now because he's up into third position, and he's got set the exact same lap time as Carlos Sainz, and he's 13 milliseconds back there from Lando Norris. So pretty good going there from George Russell. But in terms of the championship, let's just imagine a hypothetical scenario here. Well, not even hypothetical, it's not that far from reality, but there's a 33% chance Piastri wins, there's a 33% chance that Norris wins, and there's a 33% chance that Max wins. It's around about close to that right now with the way things are going and with the way the Red Bull car is improving. But if McLaren had autonomy over the drivers and had the ability to say to Norris, from now on till the end of the season, your job is to simply defend against Max Verstappen, hold him up as much as you possibly can, turn into the British Minister of Defence and hold up Max for every single lap of the race, then the odds of Piastri winning the championship are probably up to 75%, 80%, and Max's odds drop significantly. But that's just not going to happen. McLaren, there is no way that either of the McLaren drivers yields for the other and says, oh, I'm going to sacrifice my championship to make sure that you win the title. They're not going to be doing that. And that just helps Max Verstappen chances. It is a repeat of 2007. If any of you were watching that season back in the day, we had Kimi Räikkönen versus Fernando Alonso versus Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton, of course, had his incident in the Chinese Grand Prix entering the pit lane. Fernando Alonso had quite a few incidents over the races, and Kimi Räikkönen managed to come through and get that world title by one singular point. So maybe we'll have something similar happen again, but the McLarens are fighting amongst themselves, and that could just leave the door open for Max Verstappen to get that 5th title. Okay. F1 Gamer, why is Alpine so bad? Are they not trying to do good or what? Well, Alpine at the start of the season, they noticed that they were bad. They realised that they weren't going to be quick right till the end of the season. And their strategy for that was, oh, we're slow right now, so I guess we're not going to develop the car whatsoever and focus on 2026 as much as possible. So they've put all of their eggs in one basket, and they're hoping that their 2026 engine, aero package, chassis, all of them work together fantastically, and they can be top of the pack then. So that's why Alpine haven't been that quick this year, because at the start of the season they realised just how slow they were, and they were like, well, this is unrecoverable. And because they saw it was unrecoverable, they decided, oh, we might as well focus on next year. Charles Leclerc just comes across the line now. He did have a purple middle sector, but his first and third sectors weren't good enough at the end of the day, and did lose a bit of time compared to Norris and Hamilton in the sectors. So goes 10 milliseconds slower, but if you look at his theoretical best lap time, folks, Charles Leclerc is not that far off Lando Norris's theoretical best, and is in fact quicker than Max Verstappen's theoretical best. So a good sign there for Charles Leclerc. George Russell put together a very good lap, and he is at his theoretical best lap time. So Russell has pushed that Mercedes to the limit. After all, it is Saturday, and Russell always delivers on a Saturday. But I don't know how much more pace that Mercedes has to offer. It's clear to see from the lap times that Norris has got some more space to improve. So has Verstappen, so has Leclerc. But Russell, it's looking a little bit unlikely, a little bit tough. All right. We just had one of the drivers go wide on the exit of turn number 11. In fact, I'll take you through a flying lap of the circuit while there's not too much action going on right now. But, Albon goes wide as well, going through the stadium section, cuts the corner. So let's go through the onboard flying lap here. So you're going through the final corner. Just want to get a nice good exit all the way over to the left-hand side, and down straight you go onto the start-finish straight, super duper long straight as you would expect here in Mexico. Of course, the air being super thin as well, that means that we've hit quite a few top speed records around here, and the drivers hit 347 kilometers per hour without a slipstream. With a slipstream, they can go even higher, up to 350, up to 355, up to maybe even 360 as well. But in towards turn number 1, all over the curbs you go. That is the best way through the corner. Again, I'm not taking enough curb here. And then on the exit, short shift. Short shifting is super duper important to prevent the wheel spin on the exit of these corners. Then you go in towards turn number 4. Again, very, very hard on the brakes, super deep into the braking zone. And around about this point here is when you start easing off the brake pedal and start turning your wheel to make sure that you can actually make the corner. And then you've got to brake a little bit earlier here than I just did and hope that your tyres aren't overheating, because this is what happens when your tyres are overheating. You start stabbing at the steering wheel, try to get on the power and have to correct the car. And now going through this part of the lap, this is in fact quite tricky for the drivers that are doing their flying laps, but also for the drivers that are on their slow laps. They have to be very cautious not to block the drivers, not to stay on the racing line, because there is very much one racing line here, and also it's reasonably narrow. You can get 3 cars wide, but you have to be super duper careful to make sure that you're not blocking someone, and you have to cross over the racing line multiple times as well. And yeah, that's why we sometimes get this bunching up towards the stadium section, where a lot of drivers are queuing up, getting ready to go, because they don't want to be sat in the middle sector. The middle sector is very much traffic paradise, very easy to get caught out. Then as you make your way through the stadium section here, super slow speed. At this point, your tyres are very, very hot indeed, and you've just got to make sure that they don't overheat and you don't slide around too much. Anthony Purple in the middle sector, looking pretty good from him, actually. Through the final corner you go, and on your quali lap, hug the inside line here, right to the inside, because that minimises the distance, minimises your lap time, and that is a lap of the Mexico City circuit. And then we've got Antonelli. Again, another thing that we've seen multiple times now, the drivers improve through the middle sector. We saw it for Leclerc. I think we also saw it for Piastri as well. The drivers going purple through the middle sector, in fact. But then in sector number 1, in sector number 3, not having sufficient pace to be able to improve their lap time. All right. Also, the other thing that I'd like to point out, the field is so compressed. The gap from first position down to 13th position is only 0.3 of a second. And, well, what can I tell you apart from qualifying is going to be simply incredible. With the margins this close from first place to 13th place, I mean, wow. We're going to have a very, very nice qualifying session. Okay, 23 minutes remain of qualifying, folks. We got George Russell again. He's gone through the middle sector and gone purple. His first sector was yellow, and we'll see what his final sector's like, but it is proving to be quite difficult to improve on these used sets of medium tyres. But the fact that he's still going purple through the middle sector means that whatever tyre issues he was having earlier on in the session have been partially rectified. He crosses the line, and just because his middle sector was so fantastic, Russell goes a 10th clear of Lando Norris. So, as I was saying earlier, saying that, Russell has not got that much margin to improve, he probably does, actually. I was very clearly mistaken. And, yeah, looking solid from Mr. Saturday. Alright, I'm going to have a quick sip of water. Perfect zoom indeed. Okay. What do the blue sectors mean? The blue sectors means the drivers have just come in or out the pit lane. So you can see here Norris in the pits. He's got blue he's got blue sectors here in sector 3 because he was driving in the pit lane. And that is what the sectors mean. Yeah. I think the meta here is to go full send on the second sector after having a conservative sector 1. That is correct. That is correct. A lot of drivers do compromise sector number 1 because so much of the pace in sector 1 is down to the straight line speed. You can compromise your entry ever so slightly into turn 1, go a little bit more conservative. It's not even go conservative. It's the idea is start out your flying lap with your tires 10 degrees, maybe 12 degrees under temperature. So they're actually too cold for the start of the flying lap. You go ever so slightly cautious in towards turns 1, 2, and 3. And then by the time you go through turns 5 and 6, your tires are up to temperature. They're at the perfect temperature to give you the maximum amount of grip. And that is the point. When you enter the middle sector, you go full send, and then your tyres are ever so slightly overheating by the time you reach the final sector. But you deal with it, you manage with it, because that's where you can make up most of the lap time, the middle sector. You know, having perfect tyres going down the start-finish straight isn't helping you because you're not limited by the tyres at that moment in time. At that point, you're limited by how much horsepower your engine's got. Then in the middle sector, when you're going through all the corners, it doesn't matter how much horsepower your engine's got, it matters how much grip your tyres have got. So we do see very, very often the drivers compromise their first sector to have a better middle sector and then to go on to have an overall quicker lap time. Okay. Oh, at F1 Gamer XV2, I'm in Mexico watching the race in the stadium. Oh, that is fantastic. Hope you're enjoying the race in the stadium section. I'm sure the atmosphere is incredible. And that is, okay, folks, if you could go to a Formula 1 race, where would you go and where would you sit as well? Because I think that sitting the stadium section in Mexico is an incredible place to sit. I would say also if you could sit in the grandstands at COTA in the final sector where you've got all of the drivers sort of battling away after the long straight, I think that's a great place to sit. Where else? Turn number 1 at Baku, of course, that's an incredible place to sit at as well. So if you could go to a Formula 1 circuit, where would you go and which corner would you sit at? Monaco swimming pool, fair enough, yeah. On a yacht in Monaco, that would be a nice place to be, I can't lie. I was sitting at Eau Rouge at Spa, incredible choice. Interlagos, yes, Interlagos, of course. Through the Senna S would be a fantastic place to watch a Formula 1 race from. Alrighty, we have got 18 minutes remaining of this free practice session. We've got 6 cars out on the track: Hulkenberg, Hamilton, Bortoletto, Colapinto, Albon and Pierre Gasly. Albon's on a flying lap with a fresh set of soft tyres. In the final 18 minutes of FP3, what do we expect? We expect some qualifying simulations, and Alex Albon is delivering. Here he is, 2 tenths up on George Russell's first sector time, and brilliant job so far as he heads through sector number 2. We'll see if his tyres have got a little bit of life in them. He is struggling a little bit. You can see here a few yellow mini sectors there from Alex Albon. Overall, it's still purple, but there's still some room to improve with that flying lap for Albon as of right now. And then he's got the final stadium section left to negotiate. If he can deal with this nicely and get on the power smoothly as he comes through the final corner, it could be a good lap, but I have a feeling that he has aborted his flying lap. Indeed, he has. It's not that great as he went into the stadium section and had to cut the corner. Very, very unfortunate for Mr. Alex Albon. Yeah, sitting in the S part of the Suzuka would be pretty nice as well. Got a weather report on the ground. Well, we don't really need too much of the weather report, to be honest with you guys, because, well, it's nice and sunny in Mexico all weekend long. The other thing I'd like to say, if Albon had put that lap together, he would have gone 0.3 clear of George Russell. So he was on par, he was looking good for that flying lap, but did make a mistake at the end. Does Max have the race pace? He does have an improvement on race pace from yesterday. If we look at the simulation data from yesterday, you can see the race pace Max was 1.5 tenths back in terms of performance, and with the improvement with his car today, I suspect that will have gone down even further. So the gap between the McLarens and the Red Bulls in race pace is much, much smaller. And just to sort of show you what happened there with Alexander Albon on his flying lap, he was going through the stadium section, and just exactly like me, actually. So me and Albon, very, very similar, me and Albono. But essentially, Albon locked up and then went straight on and super deep at this corner and decided to abort the lap. And, you know, me, when I was recording this lap probably a few months ago, made the exact same mistake. So, you know, maybe I am Alex Albon. Actually, no, I'm not Alex Albon, but maybe I could be a good Williams sim driver. Albon comes over the radio saying, guys, the car feels weird, and we'll see if... I don't know how weird it feels because his lap times were pretty good, but yeah, he did make a mistake in the end. On the screen, what does Sector 1... US 2 and 3, what does this mean? Essentially, very much like Sector 1, 2 and 3 here, the track is split up into 3 different sectors, and you can find out if the drivers are going quicker in Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, and the data here is just a lot more in-depth. So this Sector 1, all of these, each rectangle is a tiny little part of the track, and it tells you if the drivers are purple or improving. So just for example, Fernando Alonso here at the end of Sector 2 was looking really, really good. So what does that indicate? On the track map, if we pull up the track map, that must have meant that Fernando Alonso got a brilliant exit out of turn number 11 and then had a great run towards the end of the second sector. That's what it tells us. And then the yellow bit before that means that Alonso didn't have so good of a run through turns number 9, 10 and 11. So a little bit more information for the folks that are watching and sort of really, really interested in the data. Isaac Hadjar goes purple in the middle sector with a fresh set of soft tyres. We've got loads of drivers coming out on fresh set, folks. This is fantastic. This is what we've been waiting for at the end of FP3. We have got George Russell out on a fresh set of softs. So's Charles Leclerc, so's Hadjar, so's Tsunoda, so's Antonelli and Lawson and Piastri and Stroll. Hadjar top of the times, half a second clear of George Russell. Good to see. First qualifying sim on the board, a 117.4. Brilliant. Stroll through the first sector looks pretty nice. And oh my goodness me, second position for Lance Stroll, 2 tenths back there from Isaac Hadjar. Very nice lap. George Russell quickest through the speed traps, 351 kilometers per hour from him. Oscar Piastri is now purple in the first sector. Whatever pace difference there was between himself and his teammate now looks to have been rectified. And Norris is still out on the medium tyres, so he's got to maybe a few more minutes before he's out on a soft set to compare the two drivers. Lawson looking pretty good. Tsunoda now across the line. Second place for him, split only 19 milliseconds back there from Isaac Hadjar. Very nice job from Yuki Tsunoda. Lawson across the line, third place for him. He's a 10th and a half back from Isaac Hadjar. But we've got an all Red Bull top 3, and Max Verstappen isn't there. That didn't last very long. Piastri goes 81 milliseconds ahead of Isaac Hadjar. That is in fact Oscar Piastri's number, isn't it? Number 81, and he goes 81 milliseconds clear of Isaac Hadjar, who's in second place. George Russell puts himself up into third with a nice lap on those set of soft tyres. He's a 10th back from Oscar Piastri. But folks, what am I saying here? The competition during qualifying is going to be incredibly close. Piastri, Hadjar, Russell, all within a tenth of a second. So is Tsunoda as well. 4 drivers within a tenth. It's always good news. Maybe this is a sign, folks. Maybe this is a sign. Oscar Piastri is back. 81 milliseconds ahead of Isaac Hadjar. That would be incredible. Stroll always scores podiums in practice. Maybe he does. Charles Leclerc across the line, 9 milliseconds clear of Oscar Piastri. Solid job there from the Ferrari driver. And that was a fresh set of softs for him as well. Nice from Charles. Hamilton's out on a flying lap. Norris also, Hamilton's out on an out lap. So's Norris, so's Carlos Sainz, so's Ocon. Antonelli, however, is across the line, and first position he goes, half a second clear of Charles Leclerc. So is it the Mercedes that's the quickest? Is it the Ferraris that are the quickest? Is it the McLarens? Is it the Racing Bulls? I have no idea. But one thing I can tell you for certain is that we are going to have a fantastic Q3 session. Verstappen's on his flying lap as well. It's a 27.5 in the first sector for Max. That's 2/10 down on Oscar Piastri through the first sector. But now the question remains is, will he have the performance through the middle sector? Did he compromise his first sector a little bit to make sure his middle sector was good? By the looks of it, it is looking pretty nice there for Max as he makes his way through turns number 9, 10, 11. A few purple mini sectors to his name. Purple through the middle sector overall. He's 2/10 up on Oscar Piastri. He was 2/10 down in the first sector. He's now 2/10 up in the middle sector, so it's even footing going into the final sector, but Max has tyres that are a little bit more under control, a little bit more under temperature, and across the line comes the Flying Dutchman, and it is only 4th position actually. He did have the tyres there in the final sector, but didn't put it all together, so not great there from Max. A little bit of a twitch as he came across, as he got onto the power on the exit of the final corner. That the thing is, he's only 64 milliseconds back. He's there in 4th position, but it's only 64 milliseconds. Hamilton's now purple in the middle sector. Who is it going to be? Who's going to end out on top in FP3? May it be Lewis Hamilton? What a lap! 3/10 clear. The rest of the drivers fighting in the milliseconds. Lewis Hamilton 3 full tenths clear of the competition. Incredible job there by Lewis, and he is up there in first. Antonelli is a lot further back. Well, the Ferrari meme lives on, folks. The Ferrari meme lives on. Let me get it up. Where has it gone? Here we go. We're back with the Ferrari cycle. Hamilton's back on top. We'll see how long it lasts. But, Lando Norris is on a flying lap. He goes 1/10 up on Oscar Piastri in the first sector. Now he heads through the middle sector. He goes quickest in the middle sector, 3/10 clear of Oscar Piastri, 4/10 clear quicker in the middle sector compared to Oscar Piastri. Norris is looking like he's on another level right now, and he's now got the final sector to negotiate with probably overheating tyres. Can he do it onto the power through the final corner across the line? 3/10 clear of Lewis Hamilton. Oh my goodness me, what a lap by Norris. And again, the gap between himself and Oscar Piastri is 7/10 of a second. 7 full tenths. There is a little bit of things to take into account. Oscar Piastri did set his lap when the track was ever so slightly in worse condition, but it is not that big of a difference. It is at the max 1.5 tenths difference in terms of track evolution, and it is not 7/10 of a difference. The Ferrari meme lasted for a grand total of about 1 minute, and is very much in the it's so over phase actually. And Lauren Mickey's not looking all that happy with the fact that Max is down in 6th position and Yuki Tsunoda's down in 9th, so it's a 6-9 there for the Red Bull team, and we've got the McLarens up in 1st position and 5th position. Okay. Alonso's down in P17, he is actually. Alonso hasn't come out on a fresh set of softs. I don't know why he hasn't actually, as Alonso got some sort of engine issues, but he has been in the pits for an awful long time today, and hopefully he can make it out onto a set of softs with the final 8 minutes left on the clock. Alrighty then. So folks, we have got 57 subscribers remaining to reach to our subscriber target. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, very much would be appreciated. And if you do subscribe, then you're able to type in the chat as well. You've got to be subscribed for just 1 minute, and then it allows you to send some messages in the chat. Alright, Bortoletto up into 10th position, and another thing I'd like to say here, folks, if Tsunoda does make it through into Q3, then Red Bull will most certainly sacrifice him and use him as a tow for Max Verstappen on his final Q3 lap. There's the mega long straight, and Tsunoda will be will be providing Max Verstappen a tow with pretty much 95% certainty because, yeah, it's a title fight and Tsunoda's nowhere near. So Verstappen is probably going to gain a free 0.3 of a second, maybe 0.2 of a second going down the start-finish straight down to his teammate. So that's going to help him get close to the McLarens. But Lando Norris is looking on another level right now. I think Norris is quite actually liking this with a lot of the, let's look back to the first half of the season. There was a lot of pressure on Lando Norris, a lot of people talking, oh, what's going to happen? He's fighting against Piastri, he's making these mistakes, his race starts aren't so amazing. But now everyone's talking about, oh, can Max win the championship? There's not so much of the limelight, not so much of the pressure on Lando Norris. And now his qualifying pace, his practice pace is improving. Piastri, of course, hasn't been so good around these final few races of the season last year, and he was quite the way off the pace compared to Lando Norris. So hopefully he can get back into the fight, but he has got a 40-point lead as well. And that will be making it very, very interesting. While it'll be a sacrifice, it won't really be a sacrifice, but it will essentially sort of compromise Tsunoda's final Q3 run. I don't think Tsunoda will basically, what he will do is maybe he'll have like extra fuel in the car so he can do 2 in-laps, shall we say. So he'll do his flying lap first, and then after he's done that, he will give Max a tow on Max's flying lap, or something along those lines. Of course, it's down to each person's opinion whether Tsunoda should be told to give Max Verstappen a tow, whether Tsunoda should listen. But when you're in a championship battle, these decisions are made, and I'm very thankful that I don't have to justify to Yuki Tsunoda why he has to give a tow and why he has to have a bad Q3 lap. If he, of course, makes it through into Q3, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the other thing. If we're assuming Tsunoda actually makes it through into Q3, which is going to be pretty tough with how close the competition was. If you do exclude Hamilton and Norris, then the rest of the field is very close, which means getting into the top 10 is going to be extremely tight. Hadjar over the radio saying... Hadjar over the radio complaining about the team radio, getting quite angry and frustrated, and rightfully so. It's not been ideal for him. He's got blocked quite a few times during this practice session. Also, do Mercedes make that sacrifice? With George Russell looking to potentially get a race win here, his pace looks pretty strong. Antonelli has not scored anywhere near as enough points as George Russell. So maybe at the end of Q3, does Mercedes say, oh, just to help George maybe get another race win, do we tell Antonelli to give George Russell a tow? I don't know. It's down to sort of the team dynamics. If they want to have a very equal 2 drivers and say, you're not number 1, number 2, you're very equal, then of course they're not going to do that. But if they are very comfortable with saying, George, you're the number 1, Antonelli, you're the number 2, then... yeah, maybe they will do that, and maybe because George Russell has a pretty good shot this weekend. You may not have, if you haven't listened to the free practice streams earlier, the reason why I think Russell will be pretty good around here is that you do have to take a lot of curbs around here in Mexico, and the Mercedes car is very well suited to that. The 2 circuits where you have to take a lot of curb, Canada and Singapore, that we've already had, George Russell has won. And now here we are at Mexico, another racetrack where we need a lot of curb to get all of that lap time out. And for that reason, I think Russell should be doing pretty good. I think it's unlikely that they'll tell Antonelli to give Russell a tow, but these drivers do have their own ways of doing it. We have seen in the past where Verstappen will give maybe Alonso a tow, and then Alonso will give Verstappen a tow at the end of Q3, or maybe it'll work the other way around. We've seen it. Oh, sorry, not the other way around, but maybe that's been done also with Hülkenberg as well. So Verstappen has done it before with other drivers, and he may keep an eye. He may do that again. So we'll have to keep an eye out for it. Okay. Verstappen does improve on his second run on his soft tyres, up into 6th position for him. And yeah, towing is highly impractical on a short circuit. It is a little bit difficult, to be honest, on a short circuit, getting all of the timings right, making sure that you aren't creating traffic for other drivers and things like that. But the teams will do stuff that is impractical just because it gets them more lap time. The teams will do anything for more lap time, to be frankly honest with you guys. All right. We have hit 206k subscribers. That's fantastic. Thanks everyone for subscribing. Very much is appreciated. And yeah, we've got 11,000 people watching the live stream. Thanks everyone for coming along. We have got a remaining 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock here for FP3, but qualifying will be starting in 2 hours and 30 minutes, as you can see there just above my head. Verstappen over the radio saying no front grip, no rear grip. This is bad news, because that's what he was complaining about yesterday, and people were like, he needs to get this fixed if he wants to have any sort of race, any sort of pace for the race tomorrow. And yeah, they have worked tirelessly overnight, the simulation guys, the race, their reserve driver, their test driver, but the grip levels after a few laps just seem to be going away for the Red Bull car. It was a little bit better for them on the medium tires, but the soft tires dropped off dramatically for the Red Bull very, very quickly. So maybe that means, you know, McLaren, with their good tyre management, they could be able to work out a strategy where they go softs to mediums for the race, whereas Max Verstappen will be forced to go mediums to the hards for the race. So that will be, you know, an element of something to consider for the race tomorrow if Verstappen can't figure out his tyre wear issues. But yeah, after some more laps, he's been complaining about grip levels. Track temperature is very, very high. As you can see here, folks, it's 47 degrees Celsius. Just to the left of the speed traps, it says 47.1 degrees Celsius for track temperature. So that will drop as we go towards qualifying. So that should help out Max Verstappen. It will also be a little bit lower when the race begins as well, which will also help out Max. But we shall wait and see what happens. I've just popped a link there to the qualifying stream if you guys are interested in tuning into that one. But there's 47 seconds left on the clock. Nobody's really going for any sort of flying laps. Everyone is just doing the final few runs, and they'll be looking to get their clutch settings off the starting grid. Nothing all that exciting as of right now. Please, can you put up the Ferrari cycle? Well, I can put it up, but yeah, Hamilton's there in second and Leclerc there in seventh. It's not that big of, they're not that bad really right now, and we'll see what they can do. But their pace looks reasonably solid, at least in qualifying. Their race pace is still probably 2/10 off the McLarens, which is not ideal. But if it's good in quali, maybe things can turn around for Sunday. Okay. Yeah, that is all, folks. That is the end of FP3. So thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure commentating to you guys. And oh, we are getting some more flying laps coming in, actually. So just hang on in there. Don't just end the stream just yet. Charles Leclerc improves up into 4th position. Fantastic job. Colin Pinto improves up into 19th. Gets ahead of Alonso. Alonso still in the pits. Looks like there are some issues with Fernando Alonso's car, and that is why he's not out onto the circuit. So hopefully those issues do get resolved in the remaining 2.5 hours before Q1 begins. And actually, by the looks of it, that is everyone else that has completed their flying laps. Nobody else is going for a quick lap here. Hulkenberg does try for one, but he goes a 10th slower. So that is all from me, folks. That is the end of FP3. I'll quickly run through the top 10. We got Norris first, Hamilton second, Russell third, Leclerc fourth, Piastri fifth, Antonelli sixth, Verstappen seventh, Hadjar eighth, Tsunoda ninth, and Bortoletto 10th. So that is your top 10 for FP3, and I'll be seeing you in 2 hours' time for qualifying. Oh, Verstappen actually improves as well. All right, wait. I'll wait till everyone's laps come and finish then. Verstappen improves, goes up into 6th. He's 6/10 off the pace still. Yeah, but everyone else looks actually like they're yellow. All right. I'll wait there, folks. I'll wait. It's just not ideal for the YouTube algorithm, but you know, we'll sort of get it figured out. As long as you guys hit the like button on the qualifying stream, it sort of negates the impact. But it's not ideal for the YouTube algorithm's sake. So yeah, I think that's it then. Everyone's done their quali laps now, and well, their qualifying simulation laps, and we'll be getting underway for qualifying in 2 hours and 30 minutes. So I shall see you then. Have a wonderful morning, day, afternoon, evening, or night, depending on where you are in the world, and I'll see you in 2 hours. So hit the like button for tomorrow for the quali stream, and also hit the like button and hit the reminder button as well. Okie dokes, folks. Bye bye.